Bo-bo-bo-boo. Hour number 3.
Your mic was on, Jimmy.
I know it was. I did that on purpose. Some things I do on purpose. Not a whole bunch, but some things are planned.
It's a good show today so far. You're doing great.
Having fun.
Yeah.
Well,
Sounds surprised,
you are
eh?
such a weasel. Anyway, hour number 3, as I was saying, OverDrive, TSN 1050, TSN 2, Peter Holland, Frankie C, Jim Tatti, and the regulars will be back at some point, but not this week. So just ahead of the Boots and Hearts ticket giveaway at the end of this segment, and just before confirm or deny, the Major League Baseball trade deadline has been passed by 48 seconds. So let's go to the grappler. What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we see with a lot of these trade deadlines, that deals do tend to kind of trickle out over kind of the, final or half hour, hour and a half after the deadline actually passes. So I expect we'll still see a few things that have yet to be announced yet. But just over the last half hour or so, we got the Texas Rangers continuing to, bolster their entire team, acquiring Austin Hedges from the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Arizona Diamondbacks, who out of nowhere turned into a competitive team this year. They are trading for Tommy Pham from the Mets. That's a name that the Jays were linked to quite a bit.
Dude, the Mets are getting rid of everybody, eh?
What an embarrassment of a team.
My goodness.
You got, Steve Cohen just spending money everywhere.
Mr. Luxury Tax at the start of the season, hey?
And it's just been an absolute disaster. So anyways, Tommy Pham to the Diamondbacks and the Baltimore Orioles. I honestly can't remember the last time the Orioles made like a mid-season upgrade to their roster. But they trade another St. Louis Cardinals trade, Jack Flaherty making his way from the Cardinals to the Orioles. So, there's the...
the Yankees. The Yankees just got Middleton from Chicago.
Yeah, which... I don't know. It's a middle of the road reliever, Jim. I didn't really know if that was worth mentioning.
It's not on the grappler's radar, Jim.
No, not on my radar.
I like how he did that. He's the best. I know what he really wanted to say there, but nonetheless,
he stiffed you.
Yeah, he did. He just he wanted to shut the door on me, but he he just backed out.
Yeah,
he's learned well.
That's it. Like, it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't sound like the Jays have made a move for another right-handed bat. But with that being said, like, things can trickle in.
I was going to say, I feel like things always trickle in a little bit after the deadline passes. It gets through the league. They're clogged up. Things start to filter through.
Yeah, the fax machine overheats.
Exactly. Something we are seeing is players who will not be dealt, like Dylan Cease of the Chicago White Sox, who was a name who was obviously a big part of trade rumors. He's staying put.
Well, what about Detroit? They stiffed out the Dodgers.
Yes, and I guess I guess we'll see if something else trickles out. But we talked about it, during that a couple breaks ago. Like, I can't imagine turning down a move from Detroit to the Dodgers. I mean, who knows? Maybe he's got bad memories of the West Coast, like you guys talked about. Maybe a unfortunate ex-girlfriend. But
that
was
maybe he owes some money.
He took some advice from Dear Jimmy T.
I had to read that Jeff Passan tweet 3 or 4 times to make sure it was
different
factual.
though with baseball, grappler, because they do play in the summer, and Pete brought up this point earlier where it's like the summer. It's good weather everywhere you go with all those teams. You get to the NHL, and if you're a player filling out a 10-team no move or a 10-team no trade, you have a pretty good idea which 10 teams are going to be on those. It's pretty standard throughout the league.
Sorry, Jim, I am just seeing now that Eduardo did actually invoke the no trade clause, citing a desire to remain closer to his family on the East Coast. So there we go.
So Eduardo Rodriguez invoked a 10-team no trade clause, and the Dodgers were on it.
Yeah.
So I guess he didn't want the World Series money either.
Well, he wants to stay on the East Coast. I can respect
family
that
decision.
for family reasons.
Absolutely,
of course. Yeah. Right? Like it goes back to that.
It's nobody's fault.
It's that Travis Snyder tweet we talked about in the 4 o'clock hour, right? There's the human element behind all these things, but little surprised the Jays haven't made a move. Like, everyone talked about Teoscar and saying like this was like the longest trade to take place. Teoscar coming back to the Jays didn't happen or hasn't happened yet, and now there's still more of a desire, I think, to have that right-handed power bat in your lineup, and if they don't add Teoscar, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
Yeah, and so they'll speak at, I think, 6:15, so something's going to happen in the next few minutes. In the meantime, we can entertain you with Confirm or Deny. It's brought to you by Don Valley North Lexus. Right now, lease the 2023 RX 350 premium package from just $358 bi-weekly for 24 months. Visit DonValleyNorthLexus.com for details. Is there an intro?
We're just going to throw to the intro here, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Grappler.
I can neither confirm or deny that this is in fact a segment.
Austin trades Andrew Raycroft to Toronto. in exchange for the rights to Tuukka Rask.
It's been my honor and a privilege to serve as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club.
It's time for Confirm or Deny.
Do you regret giving all those gentlemen the no trades or no movement clauses?
Well, I can neither confirm or deny that.
I can't confirm or deny.
You don't signal when you change lanes, do you? You just go right over. Yeah, telepathic. I like it. Okay, confirm or deny. Number one, the Blue Jays will need a healthy Bo Bichette for a successful playoff run.
Confirm. That seems pretty obvious. He leads the American League in hits. He's, when it comes to the Blue Jays, it seems like he's the pulse of this team more often than not. So having a healthy Bo Bichette is going to go a long way for this group. And if they want to have a successful playoff run, everything needs to come together at the same time, and Bo Bichette is a big part of that, everything coming together.
I'm going to confirm that as well. He seems like a glue guy in that bullpen, and we've had a number of Blue Jays players express their opinion that he's the best player on the team. So in order for the Jays to have a successful run here, I definitely think you need a healthy Bo Bichette.
It's unanimous. I can confirm that too.
This is kind of like yes guy, no guy in a way.
Vladimir Tarasenko turns
dangerous game for him.
Exactly.
Game.
See, I was briefed on this yesterday. So anyway, Vladimir Tarasenko turns the Senators into a playoff team. Confirm or deny?
I want to confirm that the Sens will be a playoff team this year. I'm going to deny that it's Vladimir Tarasenko that does it. I think that's a team that their blue line needed work. They went out and got Jacob Chychrun last year. They needed a goaltender. They're going to get Joonas Korpisalo for the first time this year, so they have a number one goaltender. They have a shored-up blue line. They're going to have a healthy Josh Norris, and the progression from the young players that are already within that group is going to take another step, whether it's Stützle, whether it's Brady Tkachuk. Vladimir Tarasenko is a nice piece. He should be able to replace some of the goals that you lose with Alex DeBrincat. But it's not Vladimir Tarasenko that's turning this team into a playoff team. It's a good start and internal development within the group.
That was pretty well summarized there by Frankie C. I believe that the Ottawa Senators are certainly rounding a corner here, and they are going to contend for a playoff position. I like how Frankie said it, that it may not be Vladimir Tarasenko who's the crux of that transition, but I'm going to go ahead and confirm this, that I believe he's going to bring something to that lineup that perhaps an unmotivated Alex DeBrincat didn't, with his plans to always depart the Sens. So I'm going to say that Vladimir Tarasenko is a crucial piece for the Sens getting into the playoffs.
I applaud the use of the word crux.
Thank you.
And I'm going to agree. I'm going to say confirm, and I'm going to put it this way: the icing on the cake.
Yeah. Well, Pierre Dorion actually got put in a pretty tough spot here, right? Because DeBrincat wasn't going to sign long-term. Now, with that being said, he put himself in that situation, right? By making that move. There was always going to be risk associated with that. But DeBrincat goes out the door. Kubalik comes in. Kubalik has been he was really good in Chicago. He kind of revitalized things last year with Detroit. He's got a great cap hit. It's like $2.25 million, something like that. So you get him. You get a good prospect in Sebrango, who was a World Juniors player.
Right.
And then you add Tarasenko in free agency. They just have to make sure they get off to a good start, because so many times they're playing catch-up halfway through the season well out of a playoff spot.
Yeah, we agree. I think we all confirmed it again.
No problem.
Didn't like the Grappler's wording, but nonetheless. Number 3, confirm or deny, Major League Baseball trading deadline should be moved to later in August.
I'm going to deny this. We talked about it.
Why do you always get to go first?
I don't know.
He jumped in.
He's a mic hog.
Yeah. Not only does he not signal his lane change, then he drives slow on the left lane.
So am I that guy that just cuts right in front of you and then slams on the brakes for no reason?
Yeah.
Yeah. Deny. I'm going to deny it. I'm going to deny that anecdote about my driving, and I'm also going to deny that the MLB trade deadline should be later in August. We talked about it with the NHL trade deadline, how there should be more time for these players to gel with their group and see what they can do together.
I feel your pain, Peter. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I'm going to deny it as well. Frankie basically bit off everything that I think you and I were going to add to the conversation as well, with allowing guys to build chemistry. You want enough time to do that and gel and play well down the stretch. So I'm going to deny moving the trade deadline later.
In the interest of adding some spark to the segment, I'm going to confirm that it should be moved to later in August. Just because in the old days it was end of July and the end of August, and now it's a little early. It's too early. Middle of August, whatever. Confirm or deny. Number 4, one of the Boston Bruins or Tampa Bay Lightning will miss the playoffs in the 2023-24 season.
I'm going to go ahead and confirm this. I think that between these two teams, the team who has the best shot at making the playoffs again is the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think that there's been too much turnover in the Bruins organization right now, and losing such a cornerstone piece of their organization in Patrice Bergeron, that I believe that they're sort of due for a time out of the spotlight, if you will. So at the Leafs fan base, I'm sure they're looking for Boston not to make the postseason for once.
I think people are maybe lower on the Boston Bruins because Bergeron has retired, and it sounds like Krejci, like we don't know what's going to happen there. I'm going to deny it. I still think the Boston Bruins find a way to make the playoffs. You're telling me David Pastrnak and that team with Hampus Lindholm and Charlie McAvoy and the reigning
still
Vezina
have good pieces.
Champion, like it's still a very good team. Now, with Bergeron retiring, they're not going to get the cap relief to go out and spend more money because he was making so little compared to what his value was on that team. But I don't know. I don't buy that the Boston Bruins are just going to fade away. Like, I don't think the Columbus Blue Jackets are a playoff team. The Buffalo Sabres are going to need to get some better goaltending. They certainly have some pieces up front and two really young defensemen on the back end in Dahlin and Power that are excellent. But I still think Boston is there at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm going to deny it as well, just because. So the Bruins sit now at after the Swayman arbitration. I think they're just about $400K under the cap, so they could, for whatever that's worth. But I'm going to take what you said and add another layer to it. If you took Boston out of where they normally are, which I would agree with, and then put them beside Buffalo, Detroit, and Ottawa, aren't they still better than those other three teams?
With Buffalo, Detroit, and Ottawa, certainly better than Detroit. Ottawa, for me, is a playoff team this year, and Buffalo is a wild card. It could go either way. Like, there's enough skill on that team, but Devin Levi, is he going to be the starting goaltender? Like, is he going to be right? Like, there's still question marks in net for Buffalo. I don't know if Boston is one of those teams that's just falling out of it. Like, do the Islanders make the playoffs this year? Like, there's still opportunities for the Bruins to make the playoffs.
So you and I denied, and Peter Holland confirmed. Peter, try this one out. 2 months of Shohei Ohtani is more valuable than a franchise-altering amount of trade assets.
I am going to say that you should not sell your entire farm for Shohei Ohtani, or 2 months of Shohei Ohtani. I think that he's one of the, it's undeniable he's the best player in baseball right now, but in order to give up the next 3 to 5 years of your franchise on the hopes of winning the World Series, I think hindsight in this situation is always 2020, where if you win the World Series, you're going to look back and be like, yes, I'm glad I traded for Shohei and potentially sank our prospects and our future for the next little while. But I don't know that it's worth it. Hindsight's certainly the big one here.
So you're denying it.
I am denying.
I'm gonna confirm it, because the Angels had Trout and Ohtani on their team, and they couldn't put together a winning program. It seemed like those guys were doing all the work, and there wasn't good enough pieces around them. They had plenty of time to build a good team. Now, if you're going to trade Ohtani and bring in a bunch of prospects, you're not bringing in Trout and Ohtani again. You're bringing in prospects that you hope can be very good players, but those two players are MVP caliber, very difficult to come by. So if you couldn't do it with the two best players in the game, what makes you think you're going to be able to build a winning program around other prospects? So you might as well just keep Ohtani and take your chances.
I'm going to confirm it as well, just because, as Peter said, you might be talking a World Series win, which is hard to come by. So I would do that. And if you won the World Series with him, you could likely re-sign him. So I'm going to confirm that.
If he wants to re-sign, I don't know. Like, if you've been there long enough and you've seen what the show looks like there, and there's always funny business happening around your team, do you really want to stay there when you can go anywhere and get an ungodly amount of money?
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, you wonder what happened behind the scenes a little bit too, with the fact that there was the big rumor that he was going to get traded. It seemed almost certain, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, we're no longer shopping it.
No, now they got to add pieces, and they did.
Yeah, and so if he signs somewhere else because that team is for sale, you get nothing for him. All right, let's move along. Matthews and Nylander both have deals signed with the Leafs before the start of camp.
Ooh, saying both of them.
Yes, both.
I'm going to deny this. I think one of them has a deal done before camp. I don't think the other one has a deal done before camp. And be more specific, I think Matthews' deal gets done. I don't think Nylander's gets done. And I would imagine the Leafs have looked at the comparables and the contracts that have been signed around William Nylander and said, this is the number. Like, this is the number we're willing to go to. We're not going to go a penny more. And if Willie goes into this season and has another 40 goals and pushes on 90 points, it's a very good chance, if as a UFA, he could get a number that he desires in free agency.
Well, especially with the salary cap going up. I'm also going to deny this because I believe they're both a priority to this organization. They're both two of the top players on the team without question. But I think Matthews takes the cake in terms of who do we want to re-sign for sure. So I believe I agree with Frankie in the sense that I think one of them may be done, and that one is Matthews. I don't think both of them are signed before the start of training camp.
It's unanimous. It's a denial from the Tatman as well. I don't see this happening. And so let me ask you the obligatory follow-up. If Nylander sticks at 10, does he ever sign with the Leafs?
Not at 10.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think the Leafs would be willing to go to $10 million. And why would they? So Sebastian Aho, who's a first-line center, signs an 8-year extension. It's $9.75.
Right.
It's not a great comparable because it's a centerman versus a winger. But look at what the wingers have signed for. Okay, DeBrincat got under $8 million. Nylander's a better player than DeBrincat. For me, anyways.
I would agree.
Disagree. And then the other one is Timo Meier. Like, there's some similarities in the numbers. I still think Nylander's a better player overall and has a better track record than Timo Meier. He's at 8.8. Like, my number for William Nylander, I'm not going above $9.5 million. And if he wants to go get more as an unrestricted free agent, feel free. Like, that's your right as a player.
I believe Frankie's right. And for all we know, there's been an extension put on the table in front of Willie that says, hey, here it is for this length of time. And if Willie wants to go out and have another great year and bet on himself, then all the power to him. But I would agree that I don't think the Leafs are going to go to that 10 million number, which he may want, and quite frankly, he may deserve.
What's your drop dead number, Jimmy? Like, would you go to 10 million on Nylander?
Well, I'm going to add this to it. You're doing comparables for this summer.
Right.
If I'm Nylander, I don't sign till next summer. Different market, and I'll get my 10.
Cap
and,
as well.
And if you're the Leafs, you're okay going to free agency with him?
Oh, no.
You're not?
No.
I'll tell you why I am. Because if he doesn't sign with you, let's say you had 9.5 on your books ready to give Nylander, and he chooses to go to unrestricted free agency and sign with another team, you now have $9.5 million to sign another good player or maybe two players. Like,
I agree with that.
You're losing a player for nothing, yes, but you're also gaining cap space, which is very, very valuable in this NHL.
Or you could trade him now and get something back.
Yeah, I didn't hear trade as one of your options.
I don't like the trade option. I don't like the trade before the season option. They're a good team. They're trying to win a Stanley Cup. I don't see why you would trade one of your best players going into that season.
That's the trick with everything they do is how do you make the team better? Like, we're going to talk about the cap. But the team has to be better.
Does trading Nylander right now make your team better going into the season? I mean, it depends on the return, but I don't know if you're like, unless you have an extension in place, I don't think you're getting a great return.
If you package him with somebody else and got a lesser paid forward and a lesser paid defenseman, and you judge they were making your team better, I would look at that, but I don't know what that is.
Well, so Willie this year makes a touch under $7 million, right? Like we're talking about the cap
hit. It's a good price.
It's a great price.
You're getting great value.
Yeah, so you're trading that cap hit, and you're going to bring in lesser. Like it still doesn't make you a better team. I would say, if anything, Willie has a lot of incentive to have a big season this year for your team that's trying to win. If he's trying to cash in on that number, and listen, man, there's teams like Anaheim has. They got a lot of money to there's teams that have a lot of room if they wanted to sign him for $10 million.
I totally agree. But I'm telling you, I think he gets $10 million somewhere next summer.
Yeah. We're not disagreeing with that, though.
Yeah, we don't know. I just don't think. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't happen in Toronto.
So if you keep him and it doesn't work out and he moves on, that's the price of fame.
Right, and
that's
you got
part of
cap
business.
space, and you move on, and it can change the way your team looks, and it just might look different.
One more before the Boots and Hearts ticket giveaway. The Arizona Coyotes missed the playoffs in each of the next 5 seasons.
Did Hayes write this one in?
I'm going to deny this one. I think 5 years is a long time, and there's moves that can be made, and I believe they have some good pieces there already. That I think 5 seasons is a lot to just say that to write off the Arizona Coyotes is not making the playoffs.
It's a long time.
Yeah. I'm gonna steal a line from Bruce Cassidy. I mean this with no disrespect, but I'm going to confirm this, that they missed the playoffs the next 5 seasons. It's just, if you're a team that is struggling to spend to the floor and you're constantly bringing in contracts of hurt players on LTIR to have on your roster, doesn't scream playoffs to me. It just seems like they're much further away. They don't have a building. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of stability within the roster. With no disrespect,
there's no disrespect to Arizona.
No disrespect to Arizona, but I will confirm this.
I'm going to confirm it too. And again, the Arizona story to me is what? So if you made the playoffs and you went deep, where's your revenue? I mean, this is a wacky story.
They may not even beat Arizona in the next couple seasons.
No, exactly. You also got to think about which teams are coming out of the playoff picture, right? Like
the wording was the Arizona Coyotes missed the playoffs.
Yes. Yeah.
So
could be anywhere Coyotes.
That's right.
In a few years. Like Vancouver could be not like they didn't rebuild because they think they're in the playoff picture. Like if Demko has a really good year, like they have a number one center in Pettersson, they have Quinn, like they've rebuilt their blue line a little bit. They could be a team that pushes onto the playoffs. The Calgary Flames missed the playoffs last year. Like, are they?
So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Are they back in the mix? Are they back in the playoffs?
There's my complaint or observation about anything. Brad Treliving did a nice job getting out of a sticky situation.
Yeah.
But the team missed the playoffs.
Right. But there was players that underachieved last year, no doubt. There was also a coach that maybe his messaging had gone stale. And that, you know how that goes, man. Like the same guy coming in every day, beating that drum, and you can lose guys pretty quick.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty obvious now that it wasn't Daryl Sutter who was potentially the issue, because even after he got fired, there was guys still saying, I want out or I'm not going to re-sign.
Yeah. No, listen, it's a good point. And a lot of times with these things, as you know, it's never just one thing.
For sure.
Right? Like it's a combination of things, and what comes first, the chicken or the egg. But Markstrom has a big year. Like if Markstrom has a bounce back year, if
Huberdeau has a bounce back year.
Yeah, like if Huberdeau is a point per game guy, like he was 54 points last year coming off 115. Even if he's a point per game guy, like think about how many more goals that is on that team. It makes a big difference.
I have to do this on the way out, and everybody's anticipating Boots and Hearts ticket giveaway time. Canada's largest camping and musical festival, Boots and Hearts, returns August 10th to 13th. Acts this year will include Tim Hicks, Nickelback, Keith Urban, Tim McGraw, and many more. Here's your chance to win a pair of weekend passes. 10th caller through at 416-870-1050 is the lucky person. We're giving away tickets all week long here in OverDrive, and on Friday, one lucky winner will be upgraded to a sold-out VIP package, which includes front stage viewing, access to the bar and elevated viewing area, comfort station washrooms, exclusive food vendors, Daisy Duke's private bar, and exclusive VIP after parties and more. General admission tickets are still available at bootsandhearts.com. This is OverDrive on TSN 1050 and TSN 2. Well, whatever. OverDrive continues. Jim Tatti, Frankie Corrado, and Peter Holland. Forgot to do this earlier. Confirm or Deny was brought to you by Don Valley North Lexus. Right now, lease the 2024 UX 250 hybrid premium package. Yes, hybrid premium package from just $278 bi-weekly for 24 months. Visit DonValleyNorthLexus.com for details. Okay, that's enough of that.
Rip that page.
Yeah, trade deadline is over, and the Jays got DeYoung earlier today, and that's it. So they added two pitchers and a shortstop as one of their relievers goes out, and their shortstop goes out, Bichette, for a short period of time. And we'll bring in our baseball insider, Richard Griffin. Griff, how are you today, sir?
Pat, how are you?
Good. Everything's good here so far. What's your take on what the Jays did, and should they have looked at something else?
Well, I think that they were fortunate in a way that the Bo injury happened to his right knee last night instead of tonight, because the trade deadline would have passed. But they were able to, I mean, they had been talking with the Cardinals about a trade for Paul DeYoung, who's a shortstop coming over, and he'll play not tonight. He won't be here tonight, but it was fortunate that they were able to make that deal before or after seeing Bo's injury. And the same thing with Jordan Romano. When he was injured, they were able to get Jordan Hicks from the Cardinals. And I heard that they were trying to send Fredberg for ace, but that didn't happen. So the Jays' bullpen is as strong as I believe it's ever been. The starting rotation is 6 deep, and they're paying them $78 million in that rotation. So they weren't going to reach out and add somebody to that group. They'll be cutting it down in September sometime. But the pitching staff is set for the stretch run. It's just that they need some hitters, some of their guys on hand to step up and at the plate and produce, because that's been holding them back and creating stressful situations for the pitching staff.
Well, the Jays bring in DeYoung, and it's not exactly a power bat on the right side of the plate. What do you make of the decision by the Jays to not bring in someone like Teoscar, who's a right-handed bat who can hit with some power?
I think they definitely were considering other right-handed hitting options, and Teoscar was one of them. They could have brought him in for the last 2 months. He's a free agent at the end of the year. He's familiar with everybody here. He could have DH'd. I hope they're not happy with the job that Brandon Belt is doing as a primary DH. But when the injury to Bo happened, and they're calling it inflammation, they're calling it day-to-day, but I can see them definitely putting him on the IL and making sure that it's 100% now that they've got a shortstop who can play out there in his stead. But, they were looking at other right-handed hitting options, but their hand was pretty much forced into going after DeYoung. He's got some good power, but his offensive numbers, other than the home runs, are down from when he was at his best.
Just circling back to your comment about the Jays bullpen being as strong as ever, it's no secret that Manoah's had his struggles this year. And, how do the Jays handle him down the stretch? And it's win time.
Well, they've got a 6-man rotation starting tonight with Hinge and Ryu, and they've got 17 games in a row without a day off. So once they start getting some off days and then move into the stretch run in September, where they play, I think, 17 games in a row down the stretch against teams that are contenders for the postseason, they can make a decision to go from 6 starters down to 5 for the last month. And that decision will only be made when they see whether Manoah is able to step up and return to close to where he was in 21 and 22, or if they see that Ryu is struggling and after a year off of Tommy John surgery that he's not able to hack it every 5 days or every 6 days. So they do have options. They're starting at a 6-man rotation, and in the final month they'll be able to cut it back to 5 and still have that extra rest for most of their starters. Yeah. But I think Manoah is improving every time out. I mean, I talked to him last week. I wrote a column about him, and he seemed to be a different person than he was in the first 2 months of the season when he was struggling so badly. So it'll be interesting to see if he is able to step it up and return to anywhere near where he was the last 2 years.
Yeah, just to sort of finish that off, Griff, I mean, how much of what they succeed at is on Manoah and Ryu, or is it just sort of they'll sort themselves out?
I think they'll sort themselves out. I don't believe that all 6 guys are going to be stepping up and saying, hey, you can't take me out of the rotation. There's always, it always seems to take care of itself, either in terms of an injury in the final 2 months, and then they'll still have 5 starters. But, you look around baseball, and not every team has the depth in the starting rotation that the Blue Jays do. And as we've discussed before, they went out and they signed guys that take the ball every 5 days, that are inning eaters, and I hate that expression, but that go out and they'll give you your 6-7 innings, and they'll take the ball. So, they haven't had any injury problems to speak of with this rotation, but something always happens down the stretch. And when you start with a base of 6 guys, it's easier to cut back to 5. And I think that competitively with other teams in the American League, that they'll be at an advantage, other than the fact that they can't hit.
Griff, when you take a look at this wild card race right now in the American League, you have the Red Sox 2.5 games back, Angels 3, Yankees 3.5 games back. Like, what gives you the opinion that the Jays can kind of run away with this thing? What about their roster or the makeup of their team tells you that the Jays can run away with a wild card spot and keep those teams behind them?
Well, I think they'll definitely have to pick up their performance within the American League East. The American League East is 67 games as a group above 500, which is incredible. Usually when they finish the season in the 40s, you go, hey, that's a great division. Well, this is more than a great division with all 5 teams competing for a wild card. And they'll have, if they don't do that, they've got the last 12, 15 games in the American League East. They will be struggling to make it. But I think the makeup of their bullpen now, because they showed on the West Coast trip, they went to Seattle and Dodger Stadium, and they showed that they were in every game, but the bullpen depth betrayed them because they couldn't go back to the same guys game after game after game. And now that they've added a couple of guys, they added Genesis Cabrera and they added Jordan Hicks. And from 1 to 8 in the bullpen, they're all able to go out in high leverage situations and to contribute to a wild card run down the stretch. And I think it's the bullpen and the starting rotation. I'm not so confident that batting order that they have is going to put up 8 runs too often.
Well, since you brought up the batting order, Merrifield has done nice as the leadoff guy. 1 for 5 last night with a homer, which was an RBI. In total, in 4 games, what is he, 6 for 19, 4 RBI, 2 homers. And Springer obviously was 0 for the weekend and didn't play last night. What's your read on all of that?
Well, the read on the Springer situation is that, like, the fact that he didn't play even when he had a chance to either pinch run or pinch hit in a key situation last night, I think that he was objecting. This is just a personal opinion, not based on talking with George, but that he was objecting to being moved out of the leadoff spot. And I think that the only way that he can contribute now is batting 5th or 6th in this order, especially if Bo's out of the lineup. You need RBI guys down in those spots. And when he is at his best, he's contributing with RBIs. But he also has the ego born of years as a leadoff guy and a reputation as one of the best leadoff men in baseball. And either he's not that anymore or he can be more valuable to this particular team hitting in the middle of the order. But he's going to do that for the foreseeable future, and he needs to step up for this team to produce enough runs to win a wild card berth.
We see that Hyun-Jin Ryu's making his first start tonight in over a year. And what are the expectations like for him? Obviously, this is a division rival team. It's a must-win game, or you would think it's a must-win game for the Blue Jays. Is Hyun-Jin on a pitch count, or how much rope and how much leash do you think that they're giving him in this start tonight?
Well, John Schneider before the game was talking about 85 to 100 pitches, which is, in this day and age is the norm for a starting pitcher. The good thing for Ryu was that velocity was never one of his strong points, his location and mixing his pitches. And in the minor league rehab assignments that he had, he was doing exactly that. And they don't even rely on the radar gun for him. But the expectation is that he goes maybe five innings, 6 innings at the most, throws close to 100 pitches, and leaves the game with a chance for the Blue Jays to win.
What is it about runners in scoring position right now for this team that they're just not able to cash in? It seems like game after game, that's a narrative that keeps popping up. Danny Jansen is one of those guys that has done a nice job in that scenario. But, outside of that, there's a lot of big bats in this lineup that are leaving runners stranded.
Well, I compare it to standing on or, playing 14 holes of golf and splitting every fairway, and then you get to a narrow fairway with water on the right and out of bounds on the left, and you're going to hit it in one of those 2 spots.
Tatti knows that.
I think it's a case of a change in the the grip on the bat, like you're gripping the bat too hard because you want to produce in those situations, and you know that the team needs you, and you haven't done it. And it's so basically what I'm saying is it's like 70 or 80% mental, and they need to get over that as a group, and then individually they'll all be more relaxed in those situations and produce when they need to, because scoring 2-3 runs a game puts so much pressure on the starters and the bullpen that is unsustainable down the stretch for another 2 months.
Griff, I think we could sum this up by saying there's a cautious optimism about this team. Are you on side with that? How do you feel?
Well, I definitely do, because of the, when they added Jordan Hicks, I was on board with that. Guy throws over 100 miles an hour, and he's secondary to Jordan Romano and some of the others, Eric Swanson. And the depth and the good health of the starting rotation. Both of those things combined lend to cautious optimism, as you put it.
Griff, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, man. Thank you.
Richard Griffin, former Toronto Star columnist, worked for the Jays and Expos back in the day.
I like the way he explained the runners in scoring position.
Yeah.
Anytime you explain it in golf terms, I think that's a way we can all understand. And everyone's been there, hey? Like you're looking down at that tee shot, you're like, water on the right, water on the left.
Narrow.
But you've been striping it all day, and then you step up to that tee, and that's the one you just yank one into the cabbage.
Snap hook or big slice.
Because it makes you think.
Yeah.
All the other shots you just flailed.
Well, that's just it. You got to get out of your own way sometimes. You got to turn your brain off.
And you change your approach, right? Like how many times have you seen Blue Jays hitters, even some of the best hitters on their team, whether it's Bo or Vladdy, go up and it's like runners in scoring position. It's just a different approach, like not fighting off pitches, not working the count. Like it's happened a lot this year.
And when the umpire chips in.
When the umpire stiffs you, if you get stiffed, that doesn't help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what do you like? Listen, man. Like
you can't blame the refs or the umps.
Exactly.
Oh, come on. That's the reason why teams lose.
Every team in every sport gets stiffed by the refs or the umpires. Give me a break.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
But obviously the ones in critical games get amplified.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's been there's a reason why robot umps have become a conversation, right? Because the strike zone at times can be really bad.
It's fluid.
It was last night for sure.
I don't think hockey's ever been the same without a goal judge. I mean,
do you miss the guy behind the net in that glass booth? Just he had one job, just to press a red button.
The cream puff job of all time.
Yeah.
It's in.
Yeah. Guy got a nice suit with the NHL logo on it.
Well fed. I mean,
this was the best seat in the house. Now they sell that ticket for like $700 for a regular season.
It's in. Yeah.
Well, there was before there was a guy paying $700 to sit behind that guy.
Imagine that.
Right.
Yeah. Imagine you had
I got a front row ticket, and then you show up and you're right behind the guy in the booth.
Yeah. Is it in? I don't know. The guy's in the way, but he turned the light on.
And in some rinks they had the portable where they just wheel the guy in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't a fixed seat in some buildings.
Okay.
That was a great job. And once a year, somebody would go ballistic on the ice and swing the stick at him because he messed up the call. Yeah.
Did you? So, when they took those guys away, I remember being in like a PA meeting or something, like a rules meeting, and they took that guy away from behind the net. And they said, there's going to be a guy up in the 600 level, in the press box level with a thing, like a button. He's going to be the one that pushes the button that triggers the red light behind the net.
Former game show contestant.
Yeah, think about how high up we are doing those games. We've all been up there.
Yeah.
It's tough to tell when that thing goes in the net.
But wouldn't he be watching the monitor, though? He'd be watching the monitor with when they do the overhead of the goal review. He must be watching that.
That's
because there's no way you're sitting
kind of a delay, though, right?
Yeah. Well, exactly.
It's in. All right, I have to do this on the way out. TSN 1050 is once again delivering backpacks filled with school supplies to support local families. It's all part of our 9th annual Back to School Backpacks event happening Wednesday, August 23rd. This year's event is presented by Healthy Planet. Together in partnership with the Children's Breakfast Clubs, 1,010 young students will receive the tools they need to succeed before the school bell rings in September. For all the details, head to tsn1050.ca. This is Overdrive on TSN 1050 and TSN 2. Absolutely. I was going to say that myself. Overdrive, concluding segment. I don't know if we've ever entitled that before, but it's the concluding segment for a Tuesday. Frankie C., Peter Holland, Jimmy T. We're all here, and the Grappler with his FanDuel Best Bets. Grappler?
Thank you, sir. All right. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Got a same-game parlay going with the Jays-Orioles tonight. I got Vlad Jr. to get a hit. I don't have any particular expertise to back that up. I just think Vlad's probably going to get a hit tonight, so that's a pretty safe bet. Ryan Mountcastle of the Orioles has been a Jays killer as long as he's been in the league. He hasn't even had that great a year, but he constantly just lights up the Jays. So I got Mountcastle to get at least 2 total bases, and I am taking the over in runs, which is 8.5. Not particularly confident in Hyunjin Ryu on the mound tonight. So, expecting a high-scoring game. Can get plus money on those at plus 311. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Bet on star players to score, assist, or have a shot on goal in a soccer same-game parlay. Please play responsibly, 19 plus, and physically located in Ontario.
Didn't like what you said about Ryu just because of what the game means to the Jays. I mean, if he does struggle a bit, then they go 0-2 against the Orioles and have to win out to tie the series and then do something in Boston, and then they were going to be, if they lose tonight, 7-22 in their division.
I think he plays well tonight. I mean, Frankie, you know what it's like coming back from a long stint away. You're focused. You're ready to go. You want to make your impact.
It's like you've been envisioning that moment for a long, long time. And sometimes your first game back, that's actually your best one out of your first 4 or 5.
Right. The next one goes way worse.
when that adrenaline kind of goes away and you feel like, okay, I'm in a little bit of a rut here. It's been a while. That's when it can get a little gnarly on you. But I don't know, Grappler, what would be a good performance for Ryu today? If he can get into the 5th inning, is that a success? I think that would be great if he gets into the 5th inning.
Here's the thing, I'm torn on that because you remember listening to the show and being on the show when Ryu was healthy in 2021 and I guess beginning of 2022. By the time that 4th, 5th inning rolled around, it was like the Uber was outside waiting for him.
I know.
So with him being off for so long, and I know Schneider said that he's been rehabbing for quite a while, not going to have any sort of innings limit, pitch limit. If he can get through 5 innings and only give up a couple runs, I think we call that a success.
Last year, that was like the Barrios threshold, right? If he got into the 5th, it was successful and he was healthy. I mean, listen, at some point you got to come back into the lineup, and tonight's the night, and it's a really good Orioles team that he's going up against.
Absolutely. And, again, if he got, I guess they were talking about 100 pitches?
Griff said 85 to 100 pitches.
Well,
so where does that get him to?
That's a solid outing.
Well, that means you're making it that far, right? That means you haven't got rocked. And
that was my question. Yeah, how much leash is he on?
Well, and what the point you brought up earlier, Frankie, is they've got to deliver some runs. A little run support would help.
Seriously, yes. But tonight would be a great night to have that run support with Ryu because you got to think there's going to be a little spillage, like Grappler talked about, taking the over in 8.5 runs. I would imagine more than half of those will be coming from the Orioles tonight.
Well, it was great to see you again, Frankie C. and Peter Holland. Nice to see you as well. And
this was good, Jimmy. Listen, there was a little back and forth. Yeah, there's a little banter, a little back and forth. It's been a while since we've seen each other.
A couple of stabs, nothing serious.
No, nothing.
You're going to go
serious.
home and burn that tie.
Was that roadkill?
Oh, no,
you think?
no.
That's not. That wasn't road. I didn't run it over. That's not roadkill.
Well, I mean, your tie is. Can't wait for the hockey season.
We should do this again. Pete, great job, buddy, as always.
Pleasure to be with you guys.
Best looking guy on the panel, for sure.
And on that note, Brendan Dunlop is here tomorrow and the rest of the week. Enjoy your night.